After serving 3 years in prison for my younger brother, I unexpectedly saved the son of a billionaire while incarcerated. The billionaire gave me £100 million as thanks. Upon my release, I immediately called my dad, ready to share the good news. But as soon as he heard my voice, he hung up. Thinking something terrible had happened at home, I rushed back in a panic. Just as I reached the front door, I heard my sister-in-law complaining inside. Why did he have to get out today of all days? I had to rush my prenatal checkup just to hurry back and finish the property transfer. My mum replied, "Isn't this for your own good? After all, he paid for this house. He's been in prison, so he'll probably have a hard time finding a job. What if he just leeches off us and refuses to leave?" My sister-in-law snorted. "When he gets here, tell him to rent a place. I'm not living with an ex-con." Hearing their conversation, the hand I'd raised to knock started trembling uncontrollably. The heart that had been full of longing for my family instantly dropped into an abyss. Even though it was June, I felt like I was trapped in an ice cave. The door in front of me, the door I had yearned for every day and night during 3 years in prison, suddenly felt like the edge of a cliff. I stood there for a long time, frozen. My parents had always been biased toward my younger brother, but he had always been very close to me. I went to prison to take the blame for him. He couldn't possibly want to kick me out, right? Thinking this, I finally knocked. My mum opened the door, feigning surprise. "Ah, why are you back so soon? Your dad just said he was going to pick you up." Then she looked me up and down, squeezing out a sympathetic expression. "Oh, you've suffered these past few years. You've lost so much weight." If only I hadn't heard their conversation at the door. If only those words of concern had been genuine. With a hint of bitterness, I said, "It's fine. It's easy to get a taxi these days." As I spoke, I walked into the house. My sister-in-law immediately rushed over and sprayed me with disinfectant, practically emptying the entire bottle on me. "Don't overthink it. I'm just getting rid of the bad luck," she said. She told me not to overthink it, but her face was filled with undisguised disgust. She was disgusted that I was an ex-con, but she seemed to have forgotten I went to prison for her and my brother. I didn't say anything and headed straight for what had once been my room. "Don't bother looking. There's no room for you here." I had only taken 2 steps when my dad spoke. He was sitting on the sofa smoking, the ashtray was overflowing with fresh cigarette butts. It seemed my arrival had caused him great distress. I stopped and looked at him. "Dad, I only served 3 years, I didn't die. Don't I even deserve a room in this house?" My father stubbed out his cigarette and said righteously, "There are so many people in this family. How can we all fit into just a few rooms?" I didn't argue with him and instead asked, "What about Jack? Does he feel the same way?" At that moment, my younger brother, Jack, came out of the bathroom. Looking at me with slight awkwardness, he said, "Bro, Lucy's 2 months pregnant. If you live here, there really isn't enough space. But don't worry, you're my brother, you come first. If you really want to live here, I'll give you the baby's room we've already decorated." My brother sounded very agreeable. I nodded and answered directly, "Okay. Since there are still 8 months before the baby is born, I'll stay for a while." Hearing this, my brother's expression instantly stiffened. His lips moved, wanting to say something, but he hesitated. My sister-in-law couldn't stand it anymore and rushed over, yelling at me. "How can you be so selfish? Can't you see there's no room here and you have the nerve to take our baby's room? You're so shameless." I was so angry I almost laughed. I looked at her and retorted, "We used to all fit before I went to jail. The baby isn't even born yet, how can we suddenly not fit? Also, have you forgotten I paid for this house in full?" My dad slammed his hand on the table and roared. "James, what kind of attitude is that? You think you're so great just because you bought this house? You come straight back from prison and start demanding the house as soon as you get out." I said, disappointed, "Am I demanding the house back from you? You're the ones who won't even give me a room to live in." "I told you from the beginning there's no room for you here," my dad snapped. "If you need a place to stay, go rent one yourself. We don't owe you anything. So you don't owe me anything." Who was it that cried and begged me to take the blame for my brother? Who said that if I took the blame, I would be the family's greatest benefactor and you'd repay me even if you had to work like dogs and horses. All I want is to live in my own room. Is that too much to ask? Is this your so-called repayment? I spoke each word slowly, various emotions churning violently in my chest. Back then, my brother and sister-in-law had been driving my car, speeding in the wrong lane when they hit and killed someone. My parents immediately came to me. They said they had worked so hard to get my brother into a prestigious university and his future was bright. His life couldn't be ruined by this car accident. As for me, I was just an ordinary employee at a small company, my prospects far inferior to my brother's. So they cried and begged me to take the blame for him. They said that when I got out of prison, the whole family would repay me. It wasn't for any reward. I felt sorry for my parents and genuinely loved my brother, so I was willing to ruin myself, go to prison for him, and save his future. To save my brother, I sold my car, emptied my savings, lost my job, paid compensation for him, took the blame, and endured all the insults. I endured 3 years of suffering in prison. But I never imagined that what awaited me was not a stronger bond of kinship, but complete betrayal and devastation. The family I loved had become a group of ungrateful people who kicked away the ladder after climbing up. Bro, I know you're angry, my brother said, but these 3 years haven't been easy for us either. Having an ex-con in the family, we've been judged everywhere we go. If you really live here, who knows what people will say about us? Why can't you think of us for once? The brother I had sacrificed everything to protect finally revealed his true feelings. In his eyes, I was now a burden, the culprit who had brought shame upon them. The last shred of hope I had in my heart was completely extinguished. There was no longer a trace of warmth in this home. All my sacrifices had become a cruel joke. I looked at my brother, who now stood taller than me, and said coldly, "Jack, don't forget, the one who should be an ex-con is you. And the one who brought shame to this family is also you. If you were really so concerned about the bigger picture, you should have taken responsibility and admitted your guilt. Instead, you enjoyed my sacrifice, occupied my house, and still have the nerve to blame me for not thinking of you." Hearing this, my brother's face turned extremely ugly. He said resentfully, "I already thanked you for taking the blame for me. What more do you want? As my older brother, isn't this what you should do? It's just a small matter, why do you keep bringing it up?" He spoke so lightly, as if my 3 years in prison were the same as giving him the biggest chicken drumstick when we were kids. A simple thank you was enough to offset it. My father, as always, defended my brother and scolded me. The elder brother is like a father. You do a little something for your brother and expect praise. Why are you so petty? That's right, my sister-in-law chimed in. You're a good-for-nothing ex-con. You just want to live here and leech off us, don't you? If you live here, how will my baby survive after it's born? She touched her belly and spoke ruthlessly. My mom also looked grave and said to me earnestly, "James, your father and I are waiting to hold our grandchild. You're not young anymore. Even if you live alone and rent a place, it's only right." Each of them spoke one sentence after another, and each sentence was like a sharp knife piercing my heart. I was utterly disappointed, but my eyes still filled with tears. I looked at them and said in a hoarse voice, "No wonder you never came to visit me once during my 3 years in prison. I told myself you were just too busy to come and see me. But it turns out you just thought I was a disgrace." I tilted my head back, forcing down the tears, and then asked, resolutely, word by word, "I'm just asking you one question. Are you determined to kick me out today?" "Yes." My mother, my brother, and my sister-in-law all looked resolute. There was clearly no room for negotiation. I couldn't see a trace of affection in their eyes. I nodded and said decisively, "Fine. In that case, from today on, I sever all ties with you. I hope you don't regret it." This home was no longer worth my lingering affection. The £100 million I had planned to share with them had nothing to do with them anymore. With that, I walked out the door without looking back. Behind me, I heard my sister-in-law's resentful roar. "What are you pretending for? We're breaking ties with a good-for-nothing ex-con like you. What's there to regret? Letting you stay and leech off us, that's what we'd truly regret." Leaving that heartless home, I wandered the streets alone for a long time. Eventually I found a hotel and checked in. I spent a hefty sum online consulting a lawyer. I had paid for the house in full, but the deed was in my parents' names. Could I get it back? The lawyer said that as long as I could prove I was the actual buyer, for example, by providing proof of payment, renovation receipts, and property management records, I could reclaim the house. I'd always had the habit of keeping records, so I had all those documents safely stored. With the goal of getting the house back, I hired the lawyer to handle the matter for me. After entrusting the case, I lay on the bed, staring at the 9-digit balance in my bank app, lost in thought. Since childhood, my parents had favored my younger brother, believing he was smarter and destined for a bright future. Before I even finished middle school, they forced me to drop out to earn tuition for him. So I entered society early: construction work, waiting tables, factory jobs, food delivery. I'd done all sorts of hard labor. The house was something I had scrimped and saved for nearly 10 years to buy. When I bought it, my parents were worried I wouldn't take care of them later. They pestered me into putting the house in their names. Thinking we were family, I readily agreed. But as soon as I was released from prison, they transferred the house to my brother without even leaving me a room. I couldn't forgive my parents and was even more disappointed in my brother. For him, I had sacrificed everything, even going to jail in his place. But instead of being grateful, he colluded with my parents to kick me out. Fortunately, fate hadn't pushed me to a dead end. I now had more money than I could spend. The next day, I went straight to the sales office in a luxury villa district. There was a promotion going on with discounts for multiple purchases. I bought 10 fully furnished villas in one go, all paid in full. I quickly set one up and moved in, even hiring a housekeeper to cook and clean for me daily. The other 9 I rented out. I'd always dreamed of being a landlord, and unexpectedly, after a stint in prison, my dream came true. Just from the rental income of those 9 villas, I had more money than I could spend every month. Life was sweet. A month later, I received a call from my father. "James, are you crazy? You're actually suing us." I said calmly, "I'm suing the people who seized my house." "Oh, James, you're truly someone who's been in jail, so underhanded, such a dark heart. You have to air this family shame in public." Even through the phone, I could almost see my father's face darkening with anger. "Isn't that what you taught me?" I replied. Hearing this, my mother also started yelling on the other end. "James, even if you get the house back, so what? Don't forget, your brother is now working at a big company earning over $10,000 a month. And you're just an ex-convict who can't even find a job. Your livelihood is a problem. You'll eventually have to rely on your brother. Are you sure you want to tear the family apart for a house? I want this house back not because I need it, but because I don't want you ungrateful wolves living in it." Ignoring their ranting, I hung up. Just as I put away my phone, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a very attractive young woman standing outside. "Hello, landlord. I'm the tenant of Villa number 2. My name is Susan Warren." I vaguely remembered her. She'd been the first to rent a villa from me. The transaction had been smooth. She liked the place and signed the contract on the spot. Looking at her, I asked, puzzled, "Is there something I can help you with?" She twirled a strand of hair, a little embarrassed. "It's like this. I'm having a class reunion at my place, and my old classmates have all heard there's a tycoon landlord here who bought 10 villas in one go, so they all want to meet you. I came to ask if you could do me a favor and come to my party." As she spoke, Susan blushed, her face charming. Since we weren't close, my first reaction was to refuse. But looking at her pleading eyes, I couldn't bring myself to say no. Seeing my hesitation, Susan clasped her hands together and begged. "Landlord, please agree. I've already bragged to my classmates that I know you well and could definitely bring you over to impress them. Just help me out, don't let me lose face, okay? My biggest weakness is that I'm a sucker for a soft approach. Once someone asks me for a favor, I find it hard to refuse." "All right, I'll be there later." Seeing that I finally agreed, Susan immediately brightened up. "Great. I'll be waiting for you at the villa." After she left, I changed out of my pajamas, put on a suit, and walked over to her villa to knock on the door. I just didn't expect the person who opened it to be my brother's wife. My brother was right beside her. James, you're actually following us here? My sister-in-law frowned and snapped as soon as she saw me. You know each other? Susan came over, looking at me and my sister-in-law in confusion. Of course I do, Lucy said quickly. Susan, this is the person I was just complaining about, my husband's ex-convict brother. He's so old and still wants to squeeze into our baby's room and freeload. So shameless. Hearing her say this, the others in the villa gathered around, scrutinizing me with complicated expressions. My sister-in-law became even bolder, looking down on me and saying, "Get out. This is a luxury villa area. It's not a place for poor ex-convicts like you." Her voice was loud, her tone arrogant, as if she were the mistress of this villa and I was an unwelcome rat that had blundered in. Hearing her words, the people present showered me with scornful mockery. Sticking around his family for handouts, even tracking them here, this ex-con really goes all out. Some people are just like that. Poor and shameless. They've got hands and feet, yet they're always trying to leech off others. Hey, ex-con, this villa was bought by a mysterious super-rich landlord. Don't even think about causing trouble here. That's right, that super-rich landlord is about to arrive. If you offend him, you won't even know how you died. Led by my sister-in-law, everyone unleashed their malice upon me without reservation, even though I didn't know any of them. However, since I'd become rich, I'd grown more confident. A few insults couldn't hurt me. I looked at my sister-in-law and smiled. First, I have no interest in following you. I'm annoyed just seeing you. Second, I'll say this one last time, I became an ex-con solely to take the blame for your husband, please remember that. Third, you despise me for being an ex-con, yet you're squatting in my house and refusing to leave. I'd like to ask, who's the shameless one? My words were sharp, and the room suddenly fell silent. The way they looked at my sister-in-law became rather interesting. Feeling the gazes fall on her, my sister-in-law frowned and said guiltily, "Stop talking nonsense. That house clearly belongs to Jack. What does it have to do with you?" I sneered. The lawyer's letter has already been sent to the house. I hope you can be just as stubborn in court. My brother, who had been silent all this time, panicked upon hearing this. "James, we're family, do you have to make things so ugly?" He said we're family, but he still wouldn't call me brother. I looked at him coldly and replied calmly. "When you kicked me out of my house, why didn't you say we were family? When your wife publicly slandered and humiliated me, why didn't you say we were family? Now that you see me as a threat to your interests, suddenly you know how to use family to pressure me. When you can benefit from me, we're family. When you can't, I'm the ex-con. Isn't that what you said?" The more I spoke, the colder my heart felt. I really couldn't understand how the little kid who once followed me around calling me brother had turned into this. "You're thinking too highly of yourself," my sister-in-law scoffed. "A lowly ex-con with no money and no job, what benefits could we possibly get from you? We just hope you won't cling to us and suck us dry. Is there some misunderstanding between you guys?" Susan, who had been completely confused, finally couldn't help but interject. Although she didn't know me well, she at least knew I was the wealthy person who had bought 10 villas. That identity didn't match the picture my sister-in-law painted of a broke, freeloading ex-con. "There's no misunderstanding, Susan. Don't be fooled by this ex-con's honest appearance, he's a disgusting freeloader. You should call the police and have him kicked out. Be careful he doesn't latch onto you," my sister-in-law said, looking at me with a sinister expression, clearly waiting to enjoy the show. "But I specifically invited him here," Susan said seriously. "The super-rich landlord I mentioned, the one who bought 10 villas in one go, is him." Hearing this, my brother and sister-in-law widened their eyes in astonishment and said incredulously, "What? He's that super-rich landlord? How is that possible?" Susan nodded. "It's him. He's my landlord. I wouldn't mistake him." At this, everyone's expressions changed, and they all looked at me in surprise. "That's impossible," Lucy cried. "James, you must have tricked Susan, you're impersonating that landlord." One was the ex-con she despised most, the other was the super-rich landlord she could only dream of meeting. She just couldn't connect the two. I looked at her like she was a clown and said lightly, "Think whatever you want. Then I turned to Susan. I'm sorry for disrupting your gathering. Have fun, I'll head back now. With that, I turned and left. At this moment, my brother hurried after me and stopped me, his expression complicated. James, no, brother, what's going on? Realizing the change in my status, he switched to brother again. At this moment, he had put away his sharp edge. The way he looked at me was as if he had become that little kid who always followed me. But I knew very clearly that he wasn't following me, he was following a safe harbor that could benefit him. I looked at him expressionlessly and said coldly, "Don't call me brother. How can an ex-con like me be your brother?" With that, I brushed past him and left. Back at my own villa, I still couldn't find peace. My parents and younger brother bombarded me with calls. I simply added all their numbers to my blacklist, refusing any further communication. When they despised me, even the air around me seemed dirty to them. They wouldn't spare me a glance, let alone a smile. Now that they knew I had money, they immediately pestered me. I'd seen through their true colors. I was better off without such a family. That night, I slept soundly. Early the next morning, someone knocked at the main gate of the villa. I groggily got up and opened the door a crack. My parents and brother immediately pushed it open and barged in, ignoring me. My mom's eyes lit up at the sight of the villa. Wow, this place is huge. The kids could run around in here all day. You could even put a small amusement park in the living room. My brother nodded in satisfaction. Yeah, my kids will be second-generation rich, too. My sister-in-law also walked around excitedly, exclaiming, "This is great, I'll be a wealthy lady living in a villa, too. Jack, I want a walk-in wardrobe just for my clothes and bags. And I want a private spa so I can relax and pamper myself whenever I want." Okay, whatever you want, my dad added, then turned to me, speaking in a naturally commanding tone. "James, put a tea pavilion in the courtyard. I'll bring some old friends over for tea when I have time." Each of them acted as if they already owned the villa, giving me orders as if it were only natural. I, still half asleep, was instantly wide awake. "This is my house," I said without hesitation. "Not a place for you to daydream." Hearing my words, the four of them glared at me in displeasure. My dad spoke first. "James, we know when you were in prison you saved a rich man's son and got a £100 million reward. Just give us half that money. Also, didn't you buy 10 villas? Give one to your mother and me and another to your brother and his wife." He spoke reluctantly, as if he had already made a great concession by only asking for that much. Clearly they had come prepared. I didn't hold back either. "What do my money and my villas have to do with you?" Hearing this, my mum was so angry she put her hands on her hips and shouted, "How can you be so ungrateful? Don't forget, it's all thanks to us that you went to jail. If it weren't for us, would you have had the chance to save that rich heir and get that £100 million reward? We're not asking you to give us all the money, that's already the biggest concession we can make as parents. How dare you try to keep it all for yourself? How shameless can you be?" Hearing my mother scold me so righteously, I was so angry I was speechless. I'd spent 3 years in prison, being bullied, starved, and tortured. They hadn't visited me once. Now that they knew I was rich, they immediately came to take credit, and still had the nerve to call me shameless. "You came home from prison with £100 million and didn't say a word about it," my brother added. "We thought you were family, but you turned out to be so petty and selfish." "Exactly, we deserve that money." "Give it to us now," my sister-in-law chimed in, just as self-righteously. I sneered. "So you thought of me as family? Don't forget it was you who despised me for being an ex-con and kicked me out of the house. I told you then, don't regret it." I didn't waste another word on them. I called the property management. "Hello, there are people trespassing here. Please get them out of my house as quickly as possible. And also, I don't want to see them in this villa area again." Soon the security guards arrived and swiftly escorted the four of them out, ignoring their unreasonable cursing. The property manager apologized repeatedly, saying they had let them in because they claimed to be my family, but they would never let them set foot there again. I didn't pursue the matter further. Since then, I hadn't seen any of them. I thought my life was finally peaceful, but unexpectedly, One calm morning, my phone suddenly started receiving various harassing calls and abusive messages. One after another, so many that my phone froze and crashed. Confused, I took out the SIM card and went online, only to discover that I was being savagely cyberbullied. My parents, my brother, and my sister-in-law had gone viral. Almost all social media platforms were flooded with videos of them crying and accusing me. In the videos, my parents sobbed about how they had raised me and how I'd repaid their kindness with ingratitude. "He was our darling since he was little," my mum cried. "We loved him to the bone. We always gave him the best, even if we had to go hungry for a few meals, we'd buy him his favorite chicken drumsticks. We finally raised him to adulthood, and as soon as he became successful, he kicked us out. He already has 10 villas, but he still drove us from our small house. He said he'd rather let all the houses sit empty than let us live in them. Tell me, how can there be such an ungrateful son in this world?" While my parents were sobbing uncontrollably, my brother comforted them and then turned to the camera with red eyes. "This brother of mine has been domineering, unreasonable, and a bully since childhood. I grew up under his fists. I thought he just had a bad temper and would change when he grew up, but I didn't expect him to be so morally bankrupt. He's forcing the 5 of us to squeeze into a tiny flat, and he even took us to court, claiming we were occupying his house. I really don't understand how someone can treat his own family like this. Doesn't he fear retribution?" My brother sounded indignant. My sister-in-law then appeared, looking pitiful. "He's never fulfilled any filial duties," she said. "My husband and I have always taken care of my in-laws, and we never said anything about him. But he bullied us instead. We went to reason with him, and without a word he called security to throw us out of the villa. I'm pregnant, and he didn't show any mercy. I almost had a miscarriage." The video was 7 minutes long, every word filled with accusations and condemnation against me. At the end of the video, they deliberately exposed all my personal information. Their tactic of playing the victim first turned me into a public enemy. My phone, my social media, every channel where people could reach me was flooded with abuse. I knew they wanted to utterly destroy me. Although I'd completely broken off with them, seeing them slander me so unscrupulously and twist the truth still hit me hard. After all, they were my family. And they didn't intend to leave me any way to live. Since they chose to be ruthless, they couldn't blame me for being unjust. I called the billionaire I had saved. Besides giving me £100 million, he had also given me his number. He'd told me to contact him if I ever encountered any serious problem. Upon hearing it was me, he was very polite. "James, I've seen what's going on online," he said. "Did you call because you need me to help manage the public opinion?" "On the contrary," I said. "I want the public opinion to blow up even more." He paused slightly. "What do you want to do?" "I'd like you to help me contact a TV station. I want to do a live interview and address this matter directly." "All right," he said. Without another word, he had a TV station staff member contact me that very day. The next day, a topic instantly hit all the headlines. Ungrateful billionaire to respond live on TV to family's accusations. In the comments section, people expressed all kinds of opinions. Don't try to whitewash it. No matter what he says, he can't wash away the fact he's ungrateful. No parents wouldn't want their child to do well. If his family has been driven to this point, he must be rotten to the core. He even has the nerve to go on TV. First time I've seen someone shoot himself in the foot so publicly. I'm taking the day off, I want to see how he responds. When's the live broadcast? Waiting online, very anxious. For a time, everyone was paying attention. Before the TV station even started the live broadcast, the topic had already been pushed to the top of the trending list. Commenters were flooding in, urging them to go live. Half an hour later, the station started the broadcast. I slowly walked onto the stage, appearing before countless cameras. In front of me was a huge screen displaying live comments in real time. At that moment, the comment section was filled with curses, filthy words, accusations, insults. The host sat beside me and asked politely, "Mr. Walker, regarding your family's tearful accusations that you're ungrateful, what do you have to say?" I looked at the camera and said seriously, "Let me first talk about my personal experience. My name is James Walker, and I was born into a family that wasn't very well off. When I was 3, my younger brother was born. From the time I could understand things, the phrase my parents told me most was, "The elder brother is like a father." They taught me that I must take good care of my younger brother, saying that only if my brother grew up to be successful would my life, as the older brother, not be in vain. So, whatever good food or fun things we had at home, my brother always had priority. My brother liked chicken drumsticks, so we had chicken drumsticks at every meal. But he didn't like chicken skin, so I had chicken skin at every meal. Chicken skin is very greasy, and I didn't like it either, but if I didn't eat it, I wouldn't have anything to eat. So I'd always take a big mouthful of rice and chew the chicken skin, forcing it down. When buying clothes, my parents always bought them for my brother first. When he outgrew them, they'd be passed down to me. So throughout primary school, I wore old clothes that weren't my size. Every time I went to school, my classmates laughed at me, saying I looked like a pervert, always wearing tight clothes. I was so ashamed I'd go home crying and complain. But my parents just told me to eat less and grow slower so my brother's clothes wouldn't be so tight on me. They also said the money they could have used to buy me new clothes could instead be used to buy more toys for my brother. They scolded me, asking why I couldn't think of him. From then on, I didn't even get to eat chicken skin. I paused, then continued. In secondary school, my brother ate well and grew quickly. I was thin and small, and soon he caught up to me in height. At that point I finally had hand-me-down clothes that fit me. I was happy, for a few days. Then my parents told me to drop out and start working. They said my brother wanted to enroll in tutoring classes and the family didn't have enough money to support us both studying. I really liked studying. My grades were good. I didn't want to drop out. I begged them to let me continue, said my schooling wouldn't cost much. But they asked, if I went to 6th form, who would earn money for my brother? They scolded me for being selfish, for not knowing how to think of him or care about him. I was scolded harshly and forced into the working world. My first job was moving bricks and breaking walls at a construction site, a job my father found for me. It was heavy, dusty, exhausting, but the pay was decent, a few hundred a day, enough to buy my brother a new set of clothes. But I was malnourished, thin, and weak. I couldn't even hold the hammer steady. The foreman scolded me for days and, after half a month, fired me. The day I was fired, I took my wages home, and was beaten by my father for half an hour. He scolded me for being useless, saying that as a man I couldn't even do hard labor. My mum counted the money and gave 500 to my brother, telling him to eat well at school. Then she gave me 100 and told me to buy my brother a birthday present with it. The jobs after that I had to find on my own: food delivery, waiting tables, factory work, car repairs. I did all sorts of work. But every penny I earned was taken by my parents to support my brother. All of his tuition and living expenses for secondary school and university were paid with my hard-earned wages. Only at New Year did I dare buy myself a new set of clothes. My brother, meanwhile, had different outfits every day. This, I looked at the camera, is what my parents meant in their video when they said they painstakingly raised me. As I calmly recounted my childhood, the comment section changed. The cursing stopped. Occasionally, a few new comments appeared. I'm James Walker's primary school classmate. What he said is true. He had a particularly miserable childhood, his clothes never fit. I used to join everyone in mocking him. James, I'm sorry for being so ignorant back then. I'm his secondary school classmate. His grades were really good. I remember the teacher went to his house to beg his parents to let him stay in school, but they refused. They suddenly barged into class one day, dragged him out, and he never came back. Hundreds of thousands were watching, but the live chat had become eerily quiet, with only a few voices breaking the silence. The host, I slightly read, looked at me gently. And after that, she asked softly, "What happened that led your family to accuse you like this online?" I smiled faintly. Later, with 10 years of hard work and frugal living, I finally saved enough to buy a 3-bedroom flat. When the flat was handed over, my parents came along. They suddenly confessed, saying they'd treated me badly in the past and were afraid I wouldn't support them in their old age. They even cried, blaming themselves. I told them they had raised me, I wouldn't abandon them. They said they'd only believe me if I put the house in their names. I thought, we're family. Would my parents really harm me? So I agreed. Then, because of a car accident, I went to prison. I spent 3 years inside. During those 3 years, I constantly worried about them. They never came to see me, not once. I worried they wouldn't have enough to eat or wear. I worried something might happen to them. Life in prison was painful and lonely. Several times I nearly couldn't hold on, but whenever I thought of my family waiting for me, needing me, I persevered. One day, I saw a fellow inmate choking on his food. It was very dangerous. I'd seen the Heimlich maneuver online before, so I immediately rushed over to help him. He pulled through. Later, I found out he was the only son of a billionaire. To thank me, his father gave me £100 million. The day I was released, I immediately called my dad to share the good news. I'd even thought about how I would share the money with them. But as soon as he heard my voice, he hung up. I thought something had happened at home and rushed back. When I got there, I found they had already transferred my house to my brother's name. They were afraid I'd take advantage of them if I lived there, and tried every possible way to push me away. They said that as a convict, I wouldn't even be able to find a job and would definitely come to leech off them. I had sacrificed so much for them all those years, but they turned a blind eye. As soon as they saw I was down and out, they treated me like a plague. The family reunion I had waited 3 years for was met with nothing but disdain and disgust. After a few words, they kicked me out of the house. That day, my heart turned to ash. I cut ties with them and hired a lawyer to take back my house. Later, when they found out I had money and had bought 10 villas, they barged into this villa and demanded money and houses from me. I refused, and had the property management escort them out. Throughout, I never touched any of them, and the security guards were polite and careful. There are cameras here, I can provide the footage. This, I looked back at the host, is what my brother and sister-in-law meant when they said I bullied them and pushed them around. I responded to every accusation my parents, brother, and sister-in-law had made, one by one, with clear logic and concrete facts. By now, the direction of the comments had completely changed. Those who had scolded me before were now condemning my parents and the others. I continued, seriously. The biggest stain on my life is the 3 years I spent in prison. But my mistake wasn't causing that car accident. My mistake was lending my car to my brother, and then, after he caused the accident, taking the blame for him and being unjustly imprisoned. The entire comment section exploded with question marks. Amid the confusion, I took out a small memory card. This is the dashcam memory card from my car. It recorded the entire accident. I handed it to the host and asked her to play it publicly. In the footage, my brother's voice came clearly from the driver's seat, and my sister-in-law's from the passenger seat. After a while, they started fooling around in the car. While they were laughing and playing, the car turned left into the oncoming lane. They didn't notice and kept messing about. The speed increased. Even though there was clearly a pedestrian ahead, the car still sped straight into him. Only when the person was struck did their playful voices cut off. When the footage finished, the comments were filled with outrage. I said quietly. After the accident, my parents immediately came to me, crying and begging me to take the blame for my brother. They said my brother had finally got into a top university and had a bright future, which shouldn't be ruined by one accident. But I was just an ordinary office worker, destined to be mediocre anyway. Even if I went to jail, it wouldn't matter. They said that if I didn't take the blame, my brother would have no face and no future. And just like that, I became a convict for him. I was bullied and insulted, and when I returned, I was despised and kicked out of my own house. This is the family who called me an ungrateful son. By the end, my vision blurred, tears finally spilled over. All the bitterness and hardship of so many years, at last, I poured it out in one go. After the live broadcast, my younger brother was taken away for investigation and eventually sentenced to 5 years in prison. Upon hearing the news, my sister-in-law broke down and had a miscarriage that same day. My parents were crushed by the backlash of online anger. The netizens who had supported them turned on them completely. They felt haunted and ostracized, too ashamed to show their faces, and ended up moving with my sister-in-law into a dilapidated flat in some remote corner of the city. They never appeared in my life again. As for me, Having already been punished and with the truth finally out, I received only a verbal reprimand and returned to my normal life. After distancing myself from my family, I began to truly enjoy my days as a landlord. The monthly rent was more than enough, and I started traveling the world. I used to think happiness was a family being together, united and harmonious. Now, I believe happiness is seeing more of the world and discovering more possibilities. The rain will stop. The sky will clear. Nothing stays terrible forever. Those who chase the light will, eventually, shine. I am on the road to the future. I am reborn. Free as the wind. The end.